Russian social media has recently erupted with shocking scenes. Furious car owners smashing their own vehicles right in the middle of the streets. In one viral clip, drivers angrily tore the emblems off their Chinese-made cars, a public act of rejection and frustration. Another popular video featured a well-known Russian auto blogger with 1.8 million followers who slammed Chinese car companies for what he called terrible after-sales service. They only care about selling, he said. Once the deal is done, they vanish. No brand culture, no support, nothing. The backlash stems from one painful discovery. Thousands of Russians learned that their brand new Chinese cars were actually 0-kilometer used vehicles, already registered in China and stripped of warranty protection. For a while, these cars had seemed like the perfect solution. Stylish, affordable, and full of modern features, especially after years of sanctions and rising European prices. But the illusion didn't last long. Once buyers checked their registration papers, the truth surfaced. Those cars weren't officially new. That single detail canceled their warranties overnight, no free maintenance, no software updates, and no customer support. If anything broke, owners had to pay out of pocket, often waiting months for spare parts. One Russian driver said his GAC car caught fire less than a year after purchase. When he contacted the company, they claimed the vehicle met high manufacturing standards and refused to cover the damage, leaving him with nothing. Soon after, another uproar began when Chery, a major Chinese automaker, quietly raised prices for in-car subscription services like remote engine start and heating by 250% just before winter. Even worse, the fees were automatically deducted from users' accounts without notice, according to local reports. Then came the software troubles. Many Chinese EVs rely on stable internet connections for updates, GPS, and diagnostics. But in Russia, those systems began to fail, freezing screens, broken apps, or complete loss of function. Some drivers even feared their vehicles could be remotely disabled. Built-in geofencing features, originally intended for China's domestic regulations, sometimes triggered unexpected malfunctions outside of the country. And during Russia's brutal winter, those glitches became a nightmare. Videos flooded social media showing Chinese cars refusing to start in extreme cold. One man filming his Chang'an CS55 shouted in disbelief, "Look at this! The gas pedal just snapped. It's made of plastic." With temperatures dropping below 30 degrees, 22 degrees, and salt-covered roads adding extra wear, owners grew increasingly angry. Surveys revealed that 61% of Russian buyers felt Chinese cars weren't fully adapted for local conditions, while nearly 20% said they were completely unsuitable. From dead batteries to cracked interiors, the list of problems kept growing. Another frustrated driver showed his BYD E2 2024, soaked and filled with error codes. Water leaked into the battery, he said. "I tried drying it out myself, but it still won't start." Reports show that by 2025, the 5-year maintenance cost of many Chinese EVs could match their original purchase price. Over 200 Chinese showrooms across Russia had already shut down by early 2025. And then came the final blow, the paperwork chaos. Many zero-kilometer cars had forged VINs or altered mileage to dodge customs duties. When new import regulations took effect in April 2024, demanding in-person inspections and verified tax receipts, the entire scam unraveled. Hundreds of thousands of cars became legally stuck, impossible to register, insure, or drive. Analysts estimate that more than 600,000 Chinese vehicles were trapped in legal disputes or rejected registrations that year alone. For many buyers, their dream car turned into a metal sculpture parked in the snow. The outrage that followed was not just about financial loss, it was about broken trust. How did this all begin? To understand, we need to uncover how the so-called zero-kilometer scheme was designed. The scandal first came to light in May 2025, and even months later, few answers had been given. What started as a rumor turned into a nationwide storm. At the center were BYD, Chery, Chang'an, and Geely, China's leading EV manufacturers, once hailed as Tesla's greatest challengers. Behind their success stories, however, was a hidden trick. Cars registered under fake names, then deregistered and reclassified as used to bypass export restrictions. The result? Thousands of vehicles that looked brand new, yet carried no protection, no service, and no guarantee, only frustration on the cold Russian streets. In China, the phenomenon didn't just grow, it erupted. Dealers began promoting so-called zero-kilometer cars ready for instant pickup. No delays, no red tape, and available in every color imaginable. By 2024, more than 2 million of these vehicles had already appeared in the used car market, and analysts predicted the number could surpass 2.5 million in 2025, a huge share of China's roughly 16 million annual used car transactions. Most of these trades took place online through digital marketplaces, where over 60% of China's used car sales now happen. China's second-hand car industry, valued at nearly 280 billion by 2025, was booming. But the rise of zero-kilometer cars, often discounted by up to half their original price, began to destabilize the system. Eye-catching ads promised executive-level vehicles once worth over $1 million, now available for a fraction of that. Behind the glossy banners, however, was a more troubling reality, one that quietly reshaped China's auto market and soon reached across borders into Russia. This practice wasn't an accident. It was born out of pressure and desperation. The first problem was overproduction. China's EV factories were churning out vehicles far faster than the market could absorb. By mid-2025, there were roughly 3.5 million unsold units sitting in storage lots nationwide. Around industrial zones, aerial footage revealed endless fields of unused cars, glimmering beneath the sun, some already rusting before ever being driven. In Fuzhou, BYD's new 15 billion yuan complex was operating at only half its design capacity. Automakers faced a brutal choice: cut prices and risk damaging their brand, or disguise overproduction as booming demand. Many chose the illusion. The second problem was image. When BYD announced record-breaking monthly sales of 500,000 units in early 2025, investors cheered and stock prices soared. But insiders whispered that the figures were inflated. Much of the sales volume came from internal transactions. Cars registered to shell companies, then re-registered again later. These warehouse sales made the numbers look dazzling but drained profits. Real earnings told a different story. Margins had fallen to just under 4%, less than half the rate a decade earlier. The third driver was subsidies. The Chinese government offered up to 20,000 yuan per car to boost EV adoption, but some dealers found ways to exploit the loopholes. Old vehicles were declared scrapped on paper, subsidies were collected, and the same cars were sold again as zero-kilometer models. Others faked registrations to hit quota targets, then canceled them later to repeat the process. The incentive system that was meant to fuel progress ended up rewarding manipulation. Once the domestic market became saturated, the surplus had to go somewhere. Russia, cut off from the Western automakers because of sanctions, became the perfect outlet. By 2024, Chinese car makers supplied around 60% of Russia's new vehicle market, worth roughly $15 billion. But many of those so-called new cars were actually reclassified zero-kilometer units. To avoid Russia's 15% import duty on new vehicles, exporters labeled them as used. They passed through Central Asia, via Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Armenia, before arriving in Russia as affordable alternatives to European models. More than 400,000 used cars were shipped from China to Russia in 2024, most of them zero-kilometer. A hidden network of brokers, known locally as car flippers, managed the trade. They bought surplus stock at steep discounts, sometimes 40% below market price, and moved them through gray channels. One woman from Horgos explained how the profits worked. Exporters charged about 5,000 yuan per vehicle in transit fees, storage costs, and for localization services, like removing GPS locks and converting dashboards into Russian. Local authorities quietly encouraged it. In 24, Shenzhen rolled out incentives for exporters: free warehouse space, faster customs clearance, and financial bonuses for high export volumes. The strategy flooded Russia with cheap, shiny Chinese EVs that initially seemed like a blessing. But once people started using them, problems surfaced fast. What began with BYD soon expanded into a full-blown industry scandal. exposing deep cracks in China's electric vehicle empire. By early 2025, production numbers hit record highs, exports have surged, and valuations soared. Yet warehouses were bursting with 1.2 million unsold cars, more than China's entire EV sales in 2022. Corporate debt reached 390 billion yuan, $54 billion, even as new investments kept rising. The industry was chasing growth for growth's sake, detached from real demand. Wang Jun, chairman of Great Wall Motors, gave a stark warning. If this chaos continues, we'll see a collapse like the property market. The cracks were already visible. Some EVs that once cost 230,000 yuan were now selling for just 110,000. Dealers slashed prices to clear inventory, wiping out profit margins. Of China's 137 EV brands, only about 15 are expected to survive past 2030. The rest face mergers, bankruptcy, or quiet extinction. Even the giants are feeling the pressure. BYD, which recently celebrated outselling Tesla with nearly 600,000 vehicles in the third quarter of 2025, quietly cut its annual target by 60% due to mounting debt. Suppliers are now waiting almost a year to be paid, a sign of serious financial stress. Meanwhile, Japan's Toyota posted a record profit of 2.4 trillion yen in 2024, more than all Chinese automakers combined. The contrast couldn't be clearer. The promise of unstoppable growth is fading, and the zero-kilometer car scandal has become a symbol of that decline. This isn't just a story about fake sales or frustrated Russian drivers. It's a warning about an industry chasing illusion over integrity. In the rush to keep numbers rising, some Chinese automakers ended up selling the same car multiple times, calling it innovation. For Russian buyers, the dream of affordable technology turned into a nightmare of broken warranties and frozen engines. For China's automakers, the cost was something far greater: their credibility. Because in the end, trust is the one component no factory can mass produce. Sometimes the cars that never move tell the loudest truth of all.
Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We will keep reporting on the COVID surge in China, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos. And thank you for tuning in.